the fact that you made the time, especially during this difficult week, to show up today, that you scheduled the time and that you joined us, I believe that you are indeed change agents because you want to be here. And change starts here with you today. So let's dig into what change looks like in the evolving customer experience marketplace. We have a few promises for you today. By the time you leave us at the bottom, at the half hour, you're going to understand the secret formula that all successful disruptors share. And there is a formula. There are 3 magic things that you can do, and we're going to let you in on that secret today. And you'll also determine for yourself what it takes to be a disruptor and to see if you can be a disruptor. Because not everybody's really capable of that in their organization. It requires a change in mindset. So you'll determine for yourself if you have what it takes to disrupt. You see, for many people, we get on these paths of business growth highway and everything looks great, right? It's smooth sailing and there's no traffic jams and there's no stoplights and there's no potholes and there's nobody cutting us off and flipping us the bird, right? It's a good time, and we could travel on that road for quite a while. But all of a sudden, the road below us can start to disintegrate and the buildings around us start to shake and traffic jams begin. What is that? What is that change that we see? What do we call that? So we're going to ask.
Yeah, let's take it back to the audience. Just think about, we know definitely right now one thing that's causing a lot of disruption is, of course, COVID-19. But what are some other things that are causing disruption for you on your business growth highway? Let's get a few more responses from the audience there.
And they're usually things that you have no control over. So what are the things that you have no control over that impact your business? Outmoded attitudes, so interesting. New technology for sure.
Changing customer expectations.
All the time. I was going to say oil price as well. That was a very, very big deal yesterday, right? No control, but it's going to impact businesses globally. And certainly airline and transport businesses, it impacts them as well. And of course, coronavirus or COVID-19, right. Well, we don't have control over any of these, and you've listed some great ones, but what we do have control over is our response. You see, the outside forces that impact us, especially changing customer expectations, are really important to our survival. We have to respond to them quickly. And the products that we develop can and will, and oftentimes are, knocked off overnight. You know, competitors can say, I see your product solution, I can do that too. But what can never be knocked off, what is always unique specifically to you, like a fingerprint or your DNA, is the customer experience you create. In other words, how you make your customers feel is your true differentiator. It's that emotional connection, Christina. So I went on this journey to find out, well, what is a disruptor in the customer experience space, and how can we define it? I have a new book coming out this spring just on this topic of disrupting customer experience. So as I was doing the research, I wanted to find the definition. And the first definition that I found was one that, you know, spoiler alert, I have to tell you, I really hated. And the definition here, without having to read the whole thing, says, it's a new entrance into the marketplace that disrupts an existing market and eventually displaces market-leading firms. Well, just judging by who's on the call with us today, many of you are with market-leading firms that have been around for a long time. Let me ask you, rhetorical question, do you want to be disrupted? Do you want to have the new kids come in and knock you off the block? The answer is no. So I went looking for a definition that was more inclusive, and I found this one from Webster's where it said, a company can be a disruptor if you challenge the traditional way your industry operates, especially in a new and effective way. This definition means we can all play. I mean, here's the question that I ask myself. If you are the large company and you have all of those resources, Christina, both human and financial, et cetera, why can't you be the disruptor? Yeah. Why is it, you know, the little guy coming in with less resources that seems to knock us off our post? So think of yourself, no matter how long you've been in business, and some of the people on this call have been in business for 100 years or more, think of yourself as a disruptor and with that mindset. So let's just go back in time to one of those old companies. Christina, I see SEARS as the great disruptor. What do you think?
I don't know that they're very relevant.
They're not relevant to you?
No, not relevant to me.
So you're not shopping there?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I think it's closed, the one that's near me.
So you see an empty store today.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'll just take us all back in time and just say that SEARS is absolutely, Christina, the great disruptor of 1896, right? I mean, they are the shizzle. They're all over it in 1896. Think about it. They say, we've got the largest assortment of products available under one roof. And we're going to allow for returns, no questions asked. We're going to have a rewards program, so the more stuff you buy, the more points or rewards, buying power you have with us. And guess what? We're going to deliver it to your house.
That is pretty revolutionary.
Pretty revolutionary. And in 1896, they were delivering things like a house to your house, prefab house. So think about 1896, you could order a house from the SEARS catalog. That sounds pretty revolutionary. They're disrupting that customer experience. They disrupt the way the world shops. Well, interestingly enough, in 1996, Amazon comes along and they say, wait a minute, wait for it. We're going to have the largest assortment of stuff under one roof, and we're going to allow for returns. And wait a minute, we'll give you some rewards. The more stuff you buy, the more we'll value you, and we're going to deliver it to your house. Wow, really revolutionary. But in fact, the way I see it, Amazon has perfected SEARS innovations. So here's my question to you, Christina. Why isn't SEARS the Amazon of today?
Yeah, I mean, well, let's see what the audience thinks. So looking at the, SEARS revolutionizing their customer experience, and then Amazon coming in 100 years later and really perfecting those innovations, why do you think SEARS is not the Amazon of today?
Yeah, let's have your thoughts on this as well.
Yeah.
If you think about this, the models are so close, right? We've got a catalog in SEARS, and essentially we have a catalog in Amazon. So why isn't SEARS the Amazon of today?
Yeah, so some reasons they didn't adapt to the technology that let them continue. They didn't change their business model or customer experience, ease of shopping, ignored their buyer preferences, and wanted to keep doing their normal.
These are all, this is a great audience. So doing the normal, right? I call that business as usual. That normal piece, business as usual lands you in the graveyard of failed businesses. They absolutely didn't adopt technology when they could have. They didn't jump on any bandwagons, and for sure they ignored the preferences of their buyers. It's really interesting because they chose to go down a very different path. At some point, they became a brick and mortars company. They had the opportunity to go back to the future, back to their roots. And so in the research for this Resistance Cease to Exist book, I found three things with SEARS. One is they were absolutely in denial about the need to change. So they refused to admit they needed to change. They were feeling very fat and happy. They also got very insular. So leaders were sequestered in their own sort of floor in the Sears Tower, and let's just call it the 50th floor, and the slogan was, bad news doesn't get past floor 49. In other words, leaders don't want to hear it. And then when they absolutely realized the need to change, it was inevitable, they became paralyzed. They jumped on zero bandwagons, including the technology one that was mentioned. So instead, they doubled down in a dying industry and joined up with Kmart. They stayed the course. They refused to change. And I think technology, it's not about just technology. It's about that customer need that then needed to be facilitated by technology. I mean, you just said the store closest to you is closed. They're on life support. They need a serious jolt, which I don't think they're going to get just to survive. You see, that pace of change now is so fast that it would be hard for them to come back. The pace of change has actually never been this fast, and it'll never be this slow again. And while Justin Trudeau, as handsome as he is, he didn't actually come up with this line. He just took it from somebody else and made it popular at the World Economics Forum. But he's right? By the time this webinar is over, something else would have changed for our customers. So we have to think about not just change, but we have to think about change as a mindset in order to keep up with or stay ahead of what our customers want. And we promised all of you that formula on how to do that. So the speed of change has never been this fast, and in order to keep up, we've got to think about three things constantly. One is we have to be purpose obsessed. Why are we in business? And really stay true to that. We have to adopt an entrepreneurial culture if we don't have it today, and we need to create an absolutely unique, unforgettable customer experience. Today's customer won't settle for anything less. So we've decided to tell a little bit of a story about an organization who failed to do these three things well. So you'll get a copy of the slides. Don't worry about writing it down, but let's just take a little trip down memory lane and explore a company who failed to put these ingredients together. Let's start by talking about purpose-obsessed and entrepreneurial culture, and we'll look at Kodak. Here's the great news, Christina. Kodak, known by everybody, whether or not you are of a camera generation or not, Kodak, known by everybody, had this great purpose statement. Share moments, share life.
Yeah, I love that purpose statement. Yeah.
You would want to work for a company with that purpose statement.
Absolutely.
So would I.
Yeah.
Two different generations, two different backgrounds, two different educations. We both want to work for a company where you get to share moments, share life. What about you? I mean, it's cool, right? So they started out with this great purpose statement. Let's ask the audience this.
Yeah, so you can see the image here on the screen. Does anyone in the audience know what this is?
What do you think this is? Looks like a bit of a hodgepodge smash-up. What do you think this piece of machinery is?
Take your best guess.
A cassette player, sure.
A VCR
Patty?
projector.
VCR, looks like a projector. Assuming a video camera, yeah. Looks to me like part switchboard, part cassette player, part slide projector. It looks like all those things for sure. It's actually in 1974, the projector, Fiona, sure. In 1974, it is the world's first digital camera. And this young man, Steve Sasson, creates it. And I kind of think of him as a nutty professor type of kid, right? He can take just a mishmash of stuff and put it together and come up with brilliance. He is indeed brilliant. Christina, where's Steve Sasson working at the time?
I think it was at Kodak.
You are 100% right. Steve is indeed a Kodak employee. In 1974, went from intern to young employee, and he is the creator of the digital camera. So let me ask you and everybody else, can you share moments and share life on a digital camera?
Definitely.
How many times just recently have we all said to somebody, oh my God, look at this dessert. Look at my kid or my grandkid taking the first step. My dog, right? Posting it on social media from your camera. We're taking more pictures on our phone in a week than we used to take in a year in a camera. So Steve invents this, and what do you think his boss says?
I don't know.
He says, hey, Steve, what are you doing, man? We sell film, dude. Get back to work. But listen, I'm going to cover my ass here, and I'm going to take this over to the patent office just in case it's something. I mean, it's kind of crazy. But just in case it's something, I'm going to CMA on this. And he does get it patented, thank goodness, because Kodak survived in its final years by licensing that patent. But really, he said to Steve, we sell film here. And what's interesting to me about that, Christina, and our participants, is that they said their purpose was to sell, share moments, share life. But in essence, what was really their purpose?
Sell film.
That was it. But they weren't obsessed with sharing life's moments. So here's what I want to ask you to do. This is a write-down moment. You have to ask yourself this question every single day. what is our purpose, and what are we willing to throw away to remain true to it? Again, we'll send you the slides, but take a picture of this or write it down. What is our purpose as an organization or as a team, and what are we willing to throw away to remain true to it? In other words, if Kodak was willing to throw away the film, where would they be today? Could they be Apple today? We'll never know. You can say no. I could say yes.
They might be somewhere else.
They might be somewhere else, like in business in a viable way. So then let's just think about that entrepreneurial culture. Steve Sasson at a lower level had invented something, but it didn't make its way from Steve to his manager to next level to leadership to make strategic decisions. It just didn't get through that value chain and back down to the customer. So you have to ask yourself every day, do we have a culture where everyone's able to share their ideas from leaders to the front line and back? Because I promise you, my experience in over 30 years in customer experience tells me that your front line has their hands on that customer, and they understand the customer heartbeat before you do at the leadership level. And the best ideas come from them. So we'll ask this. Are you creating a unique customer experience that satisfies what your customer needs and wants, or are you creating an experience that satisfies what you need and want? Because Kodak said, we want to sell film, we want to satisfy that. But what their customers were saying was, we want control. I want to be able to take a picture and use it quickly. I want to be able to adjust my own red eye. I want to be able to crop. I want to be able to use this thing, and I want it immediately. I want to be able to manipulate it, and I want it now. You see, the I want it now piece is part of modern living. Now, we all don't live by our families. So in this example, Grandma and Grandpa want to see little Johnny's first steps. But you take a picture of little Johnny on a traditional camera, and you wait for 35 more exposures on a 36 exposure film. And then you've got to take it to the drive-through photomat. And you wait a week, and you go and you pick it up. And then you pick it up, and in the parking lot, you thumb through the pictures, and you see little Johnny taking his first step, and he's got red eye in both of his eyes. And Christina, you can't send a picture of Satan's child to Grandma and Grandpa. You can't do it. So you drive through the booth again, and the creepy guy in the little photomat booth says, give me another week and you can pick it up. I'll get the red eye out. Well, by the time Grandma and Grandpa get a picture of little Johnny taking his first steps, he's taking his first steps into college. And what Grandma and Grandpa want is this. Grandma and Grandpa want now. They want immediacy. They want to be a part of sharing life's moments, which was what Kodak's promise was. And they just weren't getting it. So it's not just about the technology. For this unique customer experience, Kodak was not focused on customer centricity at all. They were too focused on
selling film.
They just wanted to sell film, and that just didn't cut it. So, sad statistics. Founded in 1888, 74 years as a Fortune 500 company. That's sort of unheard of territory. Delisted in 18 months, ending in 2004. I mean, just from top to bottom, literally overnight. And it's a sad story. But what's really interesting is the little creepy guy, he figured out how to adjust. He's still got a gig. The executives at Kodak are gone, and he's making smoothies in the same booth. Matter of fact, that booth figured out how to adjust, how to meet the customer's needs.
So we saw this story of how Kodak failed to meet their customers' needs and disrupt that experience. So thinking about your own organization, thinking about a scale of 1 to 5, where do you think you fall today on disrupting the customer experience, with 5 being you're great at doing it? And yeah, we'll just see where you feel that you rank. And also, as we're seeing a 3, and as you
2.
share,
2 with an exclamation mark.
Oh yeah,
Stuart's
a strong
emphatic.
2.
Yeah.
Leader score and everyone else 2.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, could be different places.
So Patty, interesting on that. If your leaders are at a 4 and everywhere else is a 2, what's the likelihood that you'll be able to be successful in that if the masses aren't going forward? Rhetorical, I think. Thumbs down, sure. What I think from our experience at Root is that if it's just the smartest few that know, we're in trouble. It requires everybody. So these threes are a bit concerning because I look at the threes, let's call them a C on the grade scale. If you're getting a C, what we know is that Cs don't win in today's marketplace. It's just too competitive. Even if it's a B, you need to be a 5 out of 5 to be winning against competition today. And, you know, little things can make a big difference here. So let's just think about this. You think about disruption. Disruption could seem overwhelming, but the wheel comes about in like 900 BC, and luggage enters our dictionaries, our lexicon, as a word in the English language in the 1800s. Why is it that it takes to 1973 to put the wheel on the luggage? Right? It's this tiny little thing, but it disrupts everything for the traveler and the hospitality and travel industry, right? Little things, big difference. We have the ingredients. If we look at Starbucks and McDonald's, it's the same story. The Frappuccino is developed by 2 frontline managers in a West Coast location who noticed in warmer weather, people are asking for cold drinks and store sales are in decline. And they say, we have coffee, we have ice, we have the milk, and oh boy, I have a blender from my mother at Christmas. Let's put all this together, and it's a $3.5 billion portion of Starbucks business. Little things thought of differently. The Egg McMuffin comes around in the 70s and disrupts the quick service restaurant business by adding breakfast as a day part. Crazy. Almost 50 years later, McDonald's says we're going to disrupt again. And all they did this time was add the words all day to breakfast. All day breakfast, highest stock price in history, competition on their heels, and customers running in. Small things, big difference. All they did was add all day. That's it. But if we're real, big things make a big difference too. So this is a picture of an Uber driver. He's a real Uber driver with a car full of grandmas. Christina, you have a grandma?
Yes.
Does she give you good advice?
Yes, always.
Would she ever say to you, Christina, don't ever meet anybody on the internet in person because it could be dangerous?
Yes.
Does she ever say to you, Christina, whatever you do, I beg you, don't get in a car with a stranger?
She would say that.
This is a picture of Grandma meeting a dude on the internet and hopping in his car right away. Grandma's willing to change. A matter of fact, this is a picture of Grandma as an Uber driver. And recently on a trip to see a client in Dallas, I had an Uber driver who was indeed a grandma. And she said to me, I have 5 grandchildren in college. I work Uber 5 days a week. And each day I send the proceeds to one of my grandchildren in college so I can help them have a better college experience, right? It's a cry moment there. She has a purpose, and that purpose is tied to Uber's purpose. Uber said, look, we ignite opportunity. That's the first part of their purpose. We ignite opportunity by setting the world in motion, and that applies to Grandma and the opportunity she has to continue to work and support her grandchildren, and it sets the world in motion for me as a traveler. They've figured out how to bring their purpose to their drivers and to the world. They are indeed purpose obsessed. And they have an entrepreneurial culture, meaning anybody can drive that's qualified. You can own your own small business essentially with Uber. And they've created a unique customer experience. Grandma doesn't want to wait on a street corner in the dark or in the rain. Grandma doesn't want to be discriminated against because of her color of her skin or the shape of her eye and passed by a taxi. Grandma doesn't want to be taken advantage of by a taxi driver who will take her in a circuitous route to get where she's going. Grandma doesn't want to fumble with her purse, trying to pay the cabbie when she's trying to get into work or her grandchild's birthday party. Uber is a great example of using all 3 of those to move to success. So we saw it in the negative with Kodak. We see it in the positive here with Uber. So we're in wrap-up mode here before we have an after party with questions. Let's just ask the audience.
Yeah, so thinking about that, what will you do to disrupt your customer's experience? And again, it could be something small. We said small things make a big difference, big things make a big difference. What's something that you can do or will do to disrupt your customer's experience?
And while you're thinking about that and dialing that in, what we want to do is share with you one thing that we're going to send to you. I'm going to move to that next slide. One thing that we're going to send to you by email as a follow-up is a disruptor challenge. We're going to ask you to try this. Take your team through the disruptor challenge to uncover what your next customer experience evolution is. It is 6 simple questions. The questions are simple, the work is hard, that can take you through an experience to come up with your next disruption. And so Root can do that workshop for you, or you can do it for yourself. So we have a question up on the board. I want to take it really quickly before we have to sign off. Would you read that out for us?
Sure. Jared's question here. How do you ensure your purpose is not fluff?
Yep, it could be faddish when you have too many tech companies. Exactly. That purpose has to be rooted to a customer need. In order for it not to be fluff, Jared, you need to solve a problem. So ask yourself when you have that purpose in your hand, is this solving a problem that's worth solving? So if you think about McDonald's, here's the problem with solving. It was very quick. Out of everything they serve, their breakfast is some of the lowest calories they have. People are nutrition-minded, and it's one of the most popular things. The problem with solving was customers were saying, I like this flavor profile, and I like the calorie profile. I'd like to have it for an extended period of time. That's it. And it was big enough. For Starbucks, the problem was, it's hot. I want to be cooled down. And it was big enough at $3.5 billion. Simple question, is our purpose solving a problem? Uber for sure. So try this. We'll provide you with a link by email. Next question is very common. We're gonna close and then answer these questions for those people who can and want to stay on. What we'd say to you is you have to ask yourself every day, are we going to resist and cease to exist, or are we going to change our customers' experience? I want to be respectful of time and say that was our presentation, and you can reach out to me directly with questions by email. Christina will be around to support, but you can ask me for questions. Go to the link that we'll send you by email and download the Disruptor Challenge. But we do want, for those of you who can stay after, take some questions which you've started to post. Yeah. How do I get my leaders? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. How do I get my leaders who have been here for years and are comfortable with status quo to think about disruption differently? How do I get them to understand that disruption is a necessity?
Is that Julie? Hi, Julie. Julie, it is the most common question. When I do this presentation in an hour format by speech, I get off that podium and there is literally a line of people asking that question. So the sad news is that oftentimes we have to lead the leaders to this because they have blinders on and they don't see. My simple answer is we have to bring them the voice of the customer, and we have to bring them the economics. Get the data that says this is what the customer wants. That's why McDonald's changed. The franchisees brought the leaders at McDonald's the data that said this is what the customer wants. Then you have to show them the financial opportunity. If we make this change and the customer responds, this is the financial upside from us. Customer data, projections on what this could mean. Those are the two things.
Yeah, and feel free to ask other questions as we're going into this Q&A portion here. But there's another one sort of related, getting other ideas or tips for leaders, managers, and heads of departments to encourage the disruptor mindset to others.
Thank you so much. On board. Yeah, I love that. Start small. If you're leading a team here, start with your team. You will have internal or external customers. Ask yourself as a team, how can we disrupt our customers' experience? It is almost like catching a fire, fanning a fire. If your team shows up acting and providing something different, it becomes contagious. Other people want a piece of that. They want to be at the cool kids' table. So demonstrate it first and do it in small ways, and it will catch on fire in a good way.
Okay. Let's have another question here. Can you explain more about how Root has helped companies innovate in their marketplace?
Sure. So without being too self-promoting, the reason why I'm doing the new book is because we've created this Disruptors workshop that we do both in conference and as a separate deliverable. And we have a new Fortune 500 company who's using it right now, where we help organizations, leaders, managers, and frontline to really go through a process that looks at what is our value proposition in the marketplace today? Who is our competitor and what are they offering? What is the customer really asking for and needing? What problems are we solving for our customer? And based on that, what old ways might we need to shed and what new things might we need to adopt? And we get those ideas in mass. It's not just one group, it's a lot of groups. And through that, we take the organization through a process that helps them whittle down, out of these ideas, which ones are we willing to test and invest in. And so it becomes a groundswell where everyone believes because they do, have a voice and are able to participate. You get the voice of your frontline people and your managers who are closest to the customer. You get the customer's voice, and you come up with a lot of ideas, and you see which ones are going to be worth investing in. So that's how we work with it. And that try this example that we gave you that we're sending you a link to is an abbreviated play-at-home version of that experience we provide in full workshop form for our clients.
Okay, should we take one more question
Sure.
here? Okay, I think it's going off a bit of what you just said, but some other best practices to understand your customers' wants and needs, and I guess that helps form your purpose statement.
Yeah, so more and more we just have to be in touch with our customers. So whether you're in retail, bricks and mortar, whether you're in digital, whatever your customer experience is, you've got to get close to your customer. So first we have to look at their shopping patterns and behaviors within your business to see the trend lines, but you have to also move out into the marketplace and not just your industry. So I think my big suggestion that may be new is that we often say, let's go see what our competitor is doing. We also want to just look at what the trends are in the marketplace. What can we learn from Uber if we're in, I don't know, food service? What can we look to gain from other industries? So my call to action that you may not be doing today is look outside your industry. Uber, again, is I think a perfect example. So many people, they're doing the Uber of healthcare now. There's just Uber-style thinking everywhere. Tesla, Uber, Purple Mattress, Warby Parker are all companies that are setting the bar. Getting 5 pairs of glasses with your prescription in it sent to your house to try on is unheard of for somebody who's been wearing glasses for over 50 years. And just that mindset of how do we take out steps for the customer and meet them where they are is a great way to think of it. So find your favorite brands out there in today's marketplace, look at what they're doing differently, and see how you might apply those concepts to your own business.
Okay, let's take another question
Sure.
here. So it says, Mike is asking, if our leadership team agrees we need to disrupt the status quo of our customer experience, what recommendations do you have to help our employees understand the need to change what we've been doing?
Oh, so good. Okay, Mike, great question. First, there are 3 things. They must understand why. Let me go back to the question. Is there a why? What recommendations do you have to employees to understand the need? Okay, so there's 3 things. They need to understand why change, which is the foundation of your question, and that is give them the same information about the marketplace that your leaders have. That's our changing customers' needs, demographics, finances, competition. Give them the information. They will come to the same conclusion you did. Our belief at Root is that if you don't give the front line and their managers the information that leaders have, they can't possibly come to the same conclusion leaders did. So give them the information that tells the story of why, urgency, why we need to change. Then follow that up with what is changing specifically, technology, systems, processes, operations, products, services, etc. So why are we changing all of the data of the marketplace? What's changing specifically in our business? And then finally, how to change. What do we need and want you to do differently, strategically, culturally, and skill-based in order to bring this change to life? The why, what, and how, Mike, really require storytelling. Businesses who tell stories engage hearts and minds, and at their core, change, big change like we're talking about here today in customer experience, requires your people to have an emotional connection to that change and an intellectual understanding.
Great. Well, I think those are all of our questions for today. Again, Gary's contact information is up on the screen, so be sure to reach out if you have other questions that come up or want to know more about his book or anything like that, see what he's eating for dessert. But we really appreciate you spending the time with us this morning.
Christina, thank you. You're awesome co-host. Let's do this again.
Yes.
For all of you that have been on the call, thank you so much for your participation. Please give us your feedback. Half hour is very, very quick. We're just trying to whet your appetite and understanding of disrupting your customer experience. With no obligation to you, I'm very happy to have a conversation on how you can be doing this for yourself and your organization. Thanks so much for joining. Thank you again, Christina.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.